Hello, I have some Outlaw Rogue updates for you all, which is just going to be off the back of my last video. So we did a pre-patch guide the other week for Outlaw Rogue, which for the most part is still relevant, but about a day after I dropped that, Blizzard did release some patch notes, and then with that, the patch the following Tuesday, Wednesday, the Fatebound Fixed to Ravenhold Mint that was already on beta but has now made its way to live, so Fatebound is now viable, we'll cover that. But most notably, increasing the amount of talents you need to take on the class tree to reach the final node, so we've had to kind of pan out the tree a bit more to get down here, and then as a result we've lost some down here. We'll cover that too. But separate to the patch notes, the theory crafters over at Ravenhold have played around with some sims and figured out that maybe it's better to swap one or two talents out on the Spec tree, which we'll talk about. One or two of them maybe being relevant to the patch notes. We did get some tuning, which I'll put up here somewhere. And on top of that, a new AOE Opener to work around the problem we were talking about last time, where you need to open into a dispatch to get slice and dice rolling. There seems to be now a better way of doing that, and we'll cover that too. So the changes haven't been here for too long. Still wasn't quite as hot off the press as I'd have liked. Obviously, the upload timing just wasn't ideal, and unfortunately, I couldn't get another video out with those updates, because by this point, I'd already pissed off to Florida to watch Americans drive stock cars round and round in a circle for 5 hours. But I'm back now, so let's talk about the changes. So let's talk about the class tree first, because that's probably one of the biggest ones to cover. So Blizzard increased the amount of talents you need to reach this final section here. I believe it's been updated to 23. So as a result, just to kind of get down here, we have to kind of pad this tree out a bit more. It's largely looking the same as it was in the last video, but there's a few talents we just now have to just arbitrarily take just to kind of get down here. Obviously means we now have a bit more utility up here that we didn't have before, but now also we can't reach kind of down this far at the moment. So I believe the recommended talents to kind of pad out the tree with just to get down here are Shadowrunner, Featherfoot, and Iron Stomach. So, I mean, funnily enough, Shadowrunner and Featherfoot are both talents that I'd actually ideally like to have anyway as we go into Midnight and start leveling, because obviously any mobility while we're leveling in the open world is obviously great. So, you know, 20% increase to your movement while stealth, and also 30% movement increase to sprint, plus having it last longer. I mean, these two are great anyway for leveling, so definitely take these two. And then Iron Stomach, which I guess will help out in dungeons. Obviously, we lost a lot of self-healing from kind of no longer taking Soothing Darkness, so more self-healing is good. So, yep, those three, and then eventually you'll get down here. But then obviously as a result, we now can't go into Supercharger down here. However, I believe with these patch notes, Cold-Blooded Killer has now actually been fixed. So even if we could have gone down this far, we wouldn't be taking Supercharger anyway. We'd be going down this one instead. But now because of a 23-point gate, we can't even get down to it anyway. So even though it's fixed, we still can't take it. We're going to have to wait till kind of the mid-80s before we can even take that. I mean, we can't even take both points of lethality, so we're kind of stuck here. Obviously, we can still go down these two, and you know, as much as we'd like to take Cold-Blooded Killer already, it's not going to be worth dropping, or certainly you wouldn't drop Deeper Strat. And you definitely won't want to drop any of these either. Energy issues for Outlaw is quite abundant in Midnight, so definitely don't try and sacrifice T. Well, I mean, you'd have to take two out. Yeah, so definitely don't be doing anything like that. Just go down this path, take Deeper Strat as well, and then just wait till the mid-80s to finally take this. So this is how the class tree is looking now with that increased talent cap. So not too different from the one I showed you, but just now with these three talents padding it out, and now we can't kind of reach down here. So obviously the import string won't work on the old one. I'll put a new one in the description of this video. So that's a class tree. So Fatebound has now been fixed. There was already a fix on the beta where a bug with Ravenhold Mint was causing your auto attack damage to just scale further and further down the longer you were logged in. There was already a fix for that on the beta, but now it's made its way to live. So Fatebound is now viable for pre-patch if you want, which we believe will be our best hero tree as we hit 90 anyway. Energy kind of feels better as Fatebound because you have Rush of the Inevitable, kind of giving you much needed energy, and you also don't have to take Killing Spree, which seems to be tuned pretty low at the moment. So as it stands with Fatebound, these are the talents you want to be taking. Obviously, just like with Trickster, we have to kind of choose one column that we don't take. We just obviously don't have all the points yet. So go like this for now if you are going to try Fatebound. And obviously, if you're going Fatebound, you can also now finish at 5 combo points because that's your coin threshold. And you also have Delivered Doom having a threshold of 5. And also, when you get to your second rank of your Apex talent as you're leveling, that also has a 5 combo point threshold. So, just something to bear in mind. I don't know if this Apex talent alone will be enough to make Trickster finish at 5. I know we'll see. Probably not. So let's cover the Spec tree, and I'll do Trickster first so we can directly compare it to the Trickster build I showed you in the last video, and we'll do the AOE one first. So the difference now is we've taken 2 points of Heavy Hitter and the 1 point out of Finding Opening, and we've put 1 into Sleight of Hand, and we've also managed to put 1 into Menacing Rush, which is now definitely worth taking because it's now been buffed by 5%. It was 15%, it's now 20%, and also keep it rolling. So in the last video, our build looked something like this. Yeah, basically like that. After some playing around with sims, it would seem it's worth taking the extra 20% chance to better rolls, and this should provide a little bit of bad luck protection for the occasional times where you have to roll naked without loaded dice and you get a one of a kind, or even if you are rolling with loaded dice, just to give it that little bit extra chance to get something better. And obviously Menacing Rush, now increasing your damage by 20% during ADR, definitely worth taking. And then also taking one and putting it into Keep It Rolling, which we weren't actually using in the pre-patch AOE build, we were only using it in the single target build. So this now is your updated Trickster AOE build. And then for single target, you would just take Dancing Steel and Grand Melee away. Just put both of them into Heavy Hitter. I mean, if you really wanted to, you could maybe put it into Prep. It's going to be like marginal difference at this point, but that's generally what I'd be doing for single target. And then if you wanted to look at the spec tree from Fatebound's perspective, you would just take one out of Killing Spree and just put another one in Summarily Dispatched. And also swap this choice node around. So we'd be playing Flickering Steel as Trickster because we need the energy. Energy's pretty bad for Outlaw going into Midnight, and it's definitely worse for Trickster than it is for Fatebound. So if you are going Fatebound, you could probably just put it in this for the verse instead, but then maybe just play around with that. I mean, I can certainly see kind of scenarios, maybe midway through a dungeon, all your T stacks are gone, and maybe energy wouldn't feel great. So I'd maybe in those cases swap it back to that, maybe just play around with that. But as Fatebound, it's recommended just to swap that into that. But obviously, completely up to you on how it feels, depending on how much haste you have as well. And then again, for Fatebound single target, just those two out, both into Heavy Hitter. Or if you really want for a short encounter, maybe just one into Prep. So even though Fatebound's a lot more viable now than it was because of the fixes, Trickster is still a little ahead, marginally. However, because we are 5 days from now going to just be going out into the open world and leveling, I will be playing Fatebound regardless, because simply I just want the mobility from having Death's Arrival giving me 4 grapple hooks rather than 2, just having that extra momentum and mobility while leveling. Obviously I'm not exactly going for world first 90, but still I like being able to just kind of get around quickly and get to quest givers rather promptly. So I'll be playing Fatebound for that reason. I might switch to Trickster for dungeons, we'll see. However, I feel like for leveling, swap Sleight of Hand and put it into Heavy Hitter, because I feel like for leveling, at least in the open world when you're doing quests, I mean, firstly, we're not even entirely sure on like how the math works with Sleight of Hand with this new iteration of Roll the Bones. But I feel like just like envisioning the scenario of me questing, like, I pull a group of mobs, they're dead in like 7 seconds, like really regardless of what role I have. I'd rather just have that flat 10% damage to my builders than like a little bit of gamba luck on my rolls. And I'm also even considering take away Keep It Rolling and just putting both nodes in Heavy Hitter for open world leveling, because then again, even if I get a nice roll and I extend it, realistically, like I said, the packs are dead in like 7 seconds. I get a nice roll, I extend it, I've got 40 seconds of a nice buff as I run back to the quest giver. Like, realistically, I'd probably be taking Keep It Rolling if it was just like how it was in the War Within, where it's acting as like a leg up to kind of additional buffs. But the way it is now, where it's just kind of locking yourself into like a double trouble, whereas if I just keep re-rolling, I might even get like a triple threat or a jackpot, and even if I don't, it's not a big deal. I just feel like flat damage is going to be better for open world leveling. So considering we are about to just level, this is the build I will probably be running for leveling. Maybe we'd go Keep It Rolling. We'll see. We'll either that or that. Or if I really want to go full on with mobility to bolster Shadowrunner and Featherfoot, I might even take something from somewhere and put it into Hit and Run just for leveling. I mean, I don't know, maybe not. But then I'm just moving around at the speed of light and I'm going to get to 90 faster. So we'll see. But I mean, obviously it's leveling, don't take it too seriously. But for leveling, it's going to be Fatebound for the 4 grappling hooks and something like this. And I'll put an import string for that in the description as well. So in the last video, we covered the problem that we have now as Outlaw and Midnight, where because we don't have Crackshot anymore, our Between the Eyes from Stealth no longer gives Slice and Dice, because obviously Dispatch gives you Slice and Dice. And when we had Crackshot, you actually did a passive Dispatch with your Between the Eyes from Stealth. So Between the Eyes did that back then. It doesn't unfortunately do it now. So opening with a Between the Eyes from Stealth, as tempting as it is no longer what you should be doing, because it's just not worth going those couple of globals without Slice and Dice. So you now want to open ADR into a Dispatch. So the opener I showed you for single target, it was just ADR into a Roll the Bones straight into a Dispatch, and then for AOE the exact same, and then after you've got that Slice and Dice rolling, then popping Blade Flurry to get your AOE going. However, there is a better way that's now emerged over the past week or so to counter this problem, at least in AOE, because we can capitalize on death maneuvers. So what we're going to do instead of ADRing into a dispatch to get slice and dice rolling, we're going to manually press slice and dice before we even open. And so the way we do that is we're going to ADR, which will give us full combo points. And then with those combo points, we'll manually press slice and dice. So now we have it rolling, at which point you would Blade Flurry for full combo points because of death maneuvers, get your Blade Rush off, and then send your first between the eyes. No dispatch needed. Obviously rolling the bones before you go in as well, and extending it if it's a double trouble or higher, because we are now playing Keep It Rolling for this AOE pre-patch build. So let's see that in action. So we'll stealth, ADR, manually press slice and dice, roll the bones, open Blade Flurry, Blade Rush, get the blood first between the eyes off, extend that as well. And then that way, that will be a little bit more of a DPS game than doing it the way I showed you the other week. And what I actually forgot to mention in the last pre-patch video is the scenario where you're about to put a keystone in, where you don't actually have to do either of those openers to get slice and dice up, because you can take advantage of pre-key fuckery. So right before a keystone's put in, you can ADR, which will give you the full combo points. Your leader will pop the key in, you'll get the loading screen, the key will be about to start, but your ADR has just come back again. But the combo points for the one you just did before the key was put in are still there. So you can then straight away manually press slice and dice, which will give you about 45 seconds of it, more than enough time to tide you over until your first pack. And then when you get to your first pack, just ADR again and go straight into it between the eyes. No dispatch necessary, because you've already got slice and dice rolling from the very start. Not to mention, this kind of pre-key fuckery also basically gives you another chance with loaded dice. Obviously, the combo points from the ADR you pop before the key isn't the only thing that stays. The loaded dice proc does as well. So as you're running to the first pack, you can roll the bones before pressing ADR again, see what you get. If it's a double trouble, don't extend it, because you're about to press ADR again and get another loaded dice proc. Get a bit of CDR off for roll the bones, roll again, and if it's better, extend that one instead. And hell, if you're playing prep, you get 3 chances of loaded dice. So a little bit of pre-key fuckery there to take into consideration. So that pretty much wraps up this little update video. Just wanted to amend a couple of things I said in the last video, which kind of became a little bit outdated about an hour after I uploaded it. So there we are. That should be it until we hit midnight 5 days from now. I mean, Blizzard, if you are watching, if you know, it's still not too late to make Ace 1 notice. If you want to do that beforehand, that's fine by me. But apart from that, I think we should be good to go for midnight and get out there and start leveling. So I will be leveling from day 1 on early access, as much as I don't like early access. I think it's awful, but that's a conversation for another day. I'll be leveling live on Twitch. So if you're not playing from early access, come hang out. And if you're leveling yourself, I don't know, just put me on another monitor or something. We can level our Outlaw Rogues together. But yes, I hope this was somewhat informative. Thank you all for watching. I'll catch you all real soon for the midnight launch. It's going to be full steam ahead with content from that point on. But until then, as always, guys, take care.